Being constantly on the move across the vast Arctic landscape, traditional Inuit families faced temperatures that could plummet in winter times to a staggering -70 degrees Fahrenheit. With no permanent shelter to shield them from these brutal conditions, they couldn't simply hunker down and wait out the cold. Isolated from the rest of the world, their only option was to make their own protective clothing. Without access to manufactured materials, they turned to their surroundings for everything they needed, proving that Mother Nature had already designed the perfect cold weather materials. The secret lay in their expert use of animal products, each carefully chosen for its unique properties. Caribou hide became their go-to material for warmth, thanks to its hollow fur fibers that trapped air and provided exceptional insulation, a natural technology that modern synthetic materials still try to replicate. The hide was particularly effective when worn with the fur facing inward, creating a cozy microclimate against the skin. For waterproofing, nothing beats seal skin. Its natural oils made it virtually impenetrable to water, making it perfect for outer layers, especially when hunting or kayaking. The Inuit would use it with the fur removed, creating a smooth, water-resistant surface that could shed rain and snow while protecting the warm layers beneath. Polar bear fur, though less commonly used, offered unmatched warmth and wind resistance for the harshest conditions. But the Inuits' material mastery didn't stop there. They also incorporated bird skins with feathers still attached, creating lightweight but incredibly warm garments. The feathers provided excellent insulation while adding minimal weight, a crucial consideration for people always on the move. Fish skin, when properly prepared, became a surprisingly versatile material, often used in waterproof summer garments. Each material served a specific purpose in the Inuit wardrobe. Soft caribou fur from young animals was perfect for clothing that touched the skin, while tougher hides from older animals provided durability for outer layers. Sealskin's waterproof qualities made it ideal for boots and outer garments, while its flexibility allowed for easy movement during hunting and fishing activities. This wasn't just about staying warm, it was about survival through resourcefulness. The Inuits' intimate knowledge of these materials meant they could create clothing that performed better in Arctic conditions than many modern alternatives. They understood that each animal provided unique properties that, when used correctly, could mean the difference between life and death in temperatures that would freeze modern thermometers. When it comes to staying warm in Arctic conditions, the Inuit mastered a technique that modern outdoor enthusiasts still swear by today: layering. But their approach wasn't just about piling on clothes until you could barely move. Instead, they developed a sophisticated system of layers within layers that worked together like a well-orchestrated symphony of warmth. The inner layer was their first line of defense against the cold, typically crafted from caribou skin with the fur turned inward. This wasn't just for comfort. The hollow caribou fur created thousands of tiny air pockets next to the skin, trapping body heat while wicking away moisture. Moving outward, the middle layer acted as the main insulation powerhouse. Made primarily from thicker furs, this layer was all about maintaining the warmth generated by the body and trapped by the inner layer. Think of it as the Inuit version of modern fleece, except far more effective in extreme conditions. This layer could be adjusted depending on the temperature and activity level, adding or removing pieces as needed. But it's the outer layer where the real magic happened. Crafted from sealskin, this waterproof barrier was essential for survival in the wet, windy Arctic environment. Because getting wet in Arctic conditions isn't just uncomfortable, it's potentially lethal. Sealskin comes with built-in waterproofing, thanks to its natural oils that repel moisture better than any modern synthetic material. When properly prepared, it created an almost impenetrable shield against wind and water, while still allowing enough flexibility for hunting and other activities. What made this system truly remarkable was how each layer worked in harmony with the others. The inner layer managed moisture, the middle layer insulated, and the outer layer protected, creating a portable microclimate that could withstand the harshest conditions nature could throw at it. Modern Arctic explorers, equipped with the latest synthetic materials, still struggle to match the effectiveness of this traditional layering system. Creating clothing from animal skins wasn't as simple as hunting the animal and immediately using its hide. The Inuit developed an intricate, time-consuming process that transformed raw hides into durable, flexible materials perfect for clothing. Each step was crucial. Skip one, and you might end up with a garment that could crack in the cold or rot in storage. The process began with fleshing, a meticulous task of removing every bit of meat and fat from the hide using specialized scrapers. Miss a spot, and that section of the hide could spoil, ruining hours of work. It was like preparing a canvas for a masterpiece. The cleaner the initial preparation, the better the final result. Once cleaned, the hide was soaked in water to soften it, making it pliable enough for the next steps. After soaking came more scraping, but this time with a different purpose. Using bone or metal scrapers, they would work the entire surface of the hide, smoothing it out and removing any remaining tissue. This step required not just strength but finesse. Press too hard, and you could weaken the hide. Too light, and you'd leave behind unusable sections. Then came the crucial stretching phase. The hide was pulled taut on a frame or stretched by hand, a process that could take several days. This wasn't just about making the hide larger, it was about achieving the perfect tension to create a uniform, wrinkle-free material. Think of it like tuning a drum. The right tension makes all the difference. Drying was equally delicate. The hide had to be kept in a shaded, well-ventilated area. Direct sunlight was the enemy here. It could make the hide stiff and brittle, like cardboard left out in the sun. Once dried, the hide was softened again by rubbing it with animal fats or oils, often a labor-intensive process that could take hours of continuous work. The final steps included smoking the hide over a slow fire, a process that not only helped preserve the material, but also added flexibility and water resistance. The smoke would penetrate the fibers, creating a natural barrier against moisture while keeping the hide supple even in extreme cold. Only after all these steps were complete could the hide be cut into pieces for clothing. This painstaking process could take weeks to complete properly, but the result was a material perfectly suited for Arctic conditions, durable enough to withstand daily wear, flexible enough to allow movement, and properly prepared to resist moisture and cold. When it comes to crafting Arctic clothing, the Inuit sewing techniques were just as crucial as the materials they used. After all, what good is the warmest fur if your seams let in freezing wind? Their stitching wasn't just about joining pieces of material. It was a sophisticated craft where every stitch could mean the difference between comfort and frostbite. The secret weapon in their sewing arsenal was sinew, the tough, fibrous tendons harvested from caribou or seals. This wasn't your standard sewing thread. Sinew had properties that made it perfect for Arctic conditions. When dried, it became incredibly strong, able to withstand the constant stress of movement and extreme temperatures. But the real magic happened when sinew got wet. Unlike regular thread, it would actually swell, creating waterproof seams that kept moisture out better than any modern synthetic alternative. To work with these materials, the Inuit developed specialized tools, each with its specific purpose. The ulu, a curved knife with a crescent-shaped blade, was essential for preparing materials. This versatile tool could slice through thick hides with precision, creating clean edges perfect for stitching. Its unique design allowed for both power and control, making it possible to cut everything from delicate trim pieces to heavy winter garments. Bone needles were another crucial tool in their sewing kit. These weren't just makeshift replacements for metal needles. They were actually better suited for working with thick furs and hides. Made from carefully shaped animal bones, these needles were incredibly strong and could be crafted in different sizes for various tasks. The eye of the needle was precisely carved to accommodate sinew while being smooth enough not to damage it during sewing. The Inuit stitching techniques were equally sophisticated. They developed different types of stitches for different purposes: waterproof seams for boots and parkas, flexible seams for areas that needed to stretch, and reinforced seams for high-stress points. Each stitch was placed with deliberate precision, often so close together that the seams were nearly invisible and completely windproof. These weren't just functional skills, they were an art form passed down through generations. Young Inuit would spend years learning these techniques, understanding that their very survival could depend on the quality of their stitching. A poorly sewn seam wouldn't just be uncomfortable. In the Arctic environment, it could lead to frostbite or say. When you think of Arctic clothing, the parka immediately comes to mind, and the Inuit version makes modern winter coats look like light sweaters. This wasn't just a piece of clothing, it was a mobile shelter, a masterpiece of engineering that could mean the difference between life and death in temperatures that could freeze your breath mid-air. The traditional Inuit parka was a complex garment that could take several weeks to create, requiring the skins of multiple animals. A single adult's parka typically needed between 6 to 8 caribou hides or a combination of seal and caribou skins, depending on the season and intended use. The hood alone could require an entire caribou hide to construct properly. When made with skill and proper materials, these parkas could last for 2 to 3 years of regular use, an impressive lifespan considering the harsh conditions they endured. Every element of the parka was designed with a specific purpose. The hood wasn't just an afterthought, it was engineered to create a microclimate around the face. Often trimmed with wolverine or wolf fur, which has the unique property of not collecting frost from breath in extreme cold, the hood would protect the face while maintaining visibility. The design included a ruff, the fur trim around the face, that could be adjusted to create a tunnel of warm air around the face, protecting against frostbite, even in the fiercest winds. The body of the parka was equally well thought out. The outer layer, typically made from water-resistant sealskin, was cut and sewn to allow freedom of movement while preventing wind from penetrating the seams. The inner layers, crafted from caribou hide with the fur facing inward, were sized slightly differently to create air pockets for additional insulation. Some parkas even included a double-layer system that allowed warm air to circulate between the layers, creating a natural heating system. What made these parkas particularly remarkable was their adaptability. Women's parkas included an extra-wide hood, an expanded back panel to accommodate infants carried in their amaltis, baby pouches, keeping both mother and child warm. Meanwhile, men's hunting parkas were designed with slightly shorter front hemlines to make walking easier, with longer backs for sitting on ice during hunting expeditions. In the most extreme conditions, an Inuit parka could keep its wearer comfortable in temperatures as low as -76 degrees Fahrenheit, a feat that even modern Arctic gear struggles to match. In the Arctic, having cold feet isn't just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. The Inuit solution to this challenge was the kamik, a boot so well engineered that modern winter footwear manufacturers are still trying to replicate its effectiveness. These weren't just simple boots, they were masterpieces of Arctic survival gear that took weeks to create and could mean the difference between life and death. Creating a single pair of kamiks required the skins from at least 2 seals for an adult's boots, plus additional caribou hide for the inner layers. The process would typically take an experienced seamstress about 2 weeks of dedicated work, involving multiple stages of preparation, cutting, and precise stitching. When properly made and maintained, a pair of kamiks could last through an entire season of heavy use, roughly 6 to 8 months, before needing major repairs or replacement. The genius of kamiks lay in their layered construction. The outer layer was typically made from bearded sealskin, processed to be waterproof while maintaining flexibility even in extreme cold. The soles were crafted from the toughest part of the hide, usually from the seal's back or the thick skin of a walrus, providing durability that could withstand walking on ice and rocky terrain. Unlike modern boots that become stiff in extreme cold, kamiks remained flexible down to the lowest temperatures. But it was the inner construction that truly set kamiks apart. The inside featured a removable liner made from caribou fur, with the fur facing inward to create a warm air pocket around the foot. This liner could be taken out and dried, preventing the moisture buildup that makes many modern winter boots ineffective over time. Some designs included a middle layer of woven grass insulation that could be changed daily, providing fresh, dry insulation even during extended hunting trips. The stitching had to be absolutely perfect to prevent water from seeping in, using specialized waterproof stitches that would actually tighten when wet. This meant an Inuit hunter could step into shallow water or slush and keep their feet completely dry. Different styles of kamiks were created for different seasons and purposes. Summer versions might be made entirely of sealskin for waterproof protection during fishing and hunting, while winter versions incorporated more fur for additional warmth. Some designs even included special textured soles for better grip on ice, created by carefully scoring patterns into the toe-H hide. In the Arctic, survival isn't just about the big items like parkas and boots, it's the smaller pieces of gear that complete the picture. The Inuit understood that protecting every part of the body was crucial, developing accessories that were just as ingeniously designed as their larger garments. These weren't afterthoughts, they were essential pieces of survival gear, each crafted with the same attention to detail as their primary clothing. Mittens were a prime example of their innovative approach. Unlike gloves, which separate the fingers and reduce warmth, Inuit mittens kept fingers together to share body heat. They were made with multiple layers: a water-resistant outer shell of sealskin, a middle insulating layer of caribou fur, and a soft inner liner that wickeded moisture away from the skin. The design included an extra-long cuff that extended well past the wrist, preventing any gap between mitten and sleeve where cold air could sneak in. Face protection was another crucial element. The Inuit developed specialized fur-trimmed face coverings that could be adjusted based on conditions. These weren't just simple scarves. They were engineered to prevent frostbite while allowing enough airflow to prevent the wearer's breath from freezing on the material. The fur was carefully selected. Wolverine fur was particularly prized because it's one of the few materials that doesn't collect ice from frozen breath. Perhaps one of their most ingenious accessories was their snow goggles, carved from bone, ivory, or wood. Long before sunglasses were invented, the Inuit created these sophisticated eye protectors with narrow slits that dramatically reduced the intense glare from snow and ice. This wasn't just about comfort. Snow blindness in the Arctic could be fatal, leaving a hunter unable to find their way home. The goggles' design also included small ventilation holes that prevented fogging, while still blocking most of the harmful reflected light. Their hats were engineering marvels in their own right, often integrated into their parkas. These weren't just simple caps, but carefully constructed protective systems. The fur was arranged to create maximum insulation around the head, where much of the body's heat can be lost. Some designs included adjustable drawstrings that could seal out wind or allow more ventilation depending on conditions and activity levels. Each accessory worked in harmony with the others, creating a complete system of protection. There were no gaps, no weak points where the cold could penetrate. While the traditional methods of crafting Inuit clothing represent an incredible achievement in human ingenuity, modern Inuit communities have adapted their ancestral knowledge to embrace new materials and technologies. Today's Arctic wear reflects a fascinating blend of time-tested wisdom and contemporary innovation, though some traditional practices have necessarily changed with the times. Modern Inuit clothing still follows the core principles developed by their ancestors. Layering, wind resistance, and moisture management remain crucial. However, you'll now find synthetic materials working alongside traditional ones. Gore-Tex might partner with sealskin, and polar fleece might complement caribou fur. This isn't about replacing traditional materials entirely. It's about combining the best of both worlds to meet today's challenges. The traditional parka has evolved, but hasn't lost its soul. While some modern versions incorporate synthetic insulation and waterproof membranes, they still maintain the essential design elements that made the original so effective. The traditional hood design, with its protective ruff and face shield, continues to prove its worth even when crafted from modern materials. However, one significant change reflects our changing times. Polar bear fur, once prized for its incredible insulating properties, is no longer used due to conservation efforts and hunting restrictions. Hunting practices and material availability have also shaped modern Inuit clothing. With increased focus on wildlife conservation and changing regulations, some traditional materials have become harder to obtain or are no longer legal to use. This has led to creative adaptations, with modern Inuit craftspeople finding innovative ways to achieve similar results using alternative materials. The art of skin preparation and sewing has also evolved. While some still maintain traditional methods, many now use modern tools alongside ancient techniques. Electric sewing machines might speed up straight seams, but traditional hand stitching is still preferred for crucial waterproof seams. The ulu knife remains a valued tool, even as new cutting implements join the toolkit. Perhaps most importantly, Traditional knowledge about Arctic clothing design continues to influence modern outdoor gear. Major clothing manufacturers regularly study traditional Inuit designs, recognizing that centuries of Arctic experience have produced solutions that even advanced technology struggles to improve upon. The principles of layering, the importance of airspaces in insulation, and the design of protective hoods. All these traditional elements appear in today's high-tech winter wear. This evolution of Inuit clothing tells a story of resilience and adaptability, showing how traditional knowledge can remain relevant and valuable even as the world changes around it.